Oh, this is going to be fun. As you can see by what's in front of the camera and the name of the video, today I'm taking a look at Metagate's G-05 Red Fantasy, their version of Bumblebee Movie Shatter. And for anyone familiar with this figure, I have the second run, the one that initially when this figure came out, there were a lot of whites on this figure that were inaccurate. So the second run, it replaces a lot of those whites with gray. That's how I know it's part of the second run. Also, some of the joints are a little bit better than they were in the initial run, but it's nothing bad. But anyway, second run of G-05 Red Fantasy or Shatter, and this figure, I actually really like this figure, and the transformation is really cool. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I've done it back and forth several times now, and I've really kind of started to get more of a feel for it. It's still a little bit tricky in a few spots, but that's just because of like how things have to kind of flop around in a few places. But basically, the reason I'm kind of like, oh boy, going into this is because I just know that this video is going to be like probably an hour long, and like 45 minutes of that is going to be transformation. So let's just get right into it. As you can see, this is everything that the figure comes with. You have the base, and this light is being silly. You have the base, you have 4 missiles, you have the gun, and then you have the figure itself. And we'll just look at the accessory stuff real quick. The gun, the way it works is there's these little tabs on the back here that just clips into. And here you can kind of see the figure is nice and glossy, but the problem is it like picks up gunk, like, you know, say greasy fingers and stuff like that pretty easily. So that's unfortunate, but it's fine. It's really only noticeable when you're looking at it in intense light like this. But anyway, there are just these 2 little peg holes back here. You just plug the gun in, and that's that. And I am going to turn the intensity of this light down. There we go. So that's where that goes. We'll look at that a little bit more in a bit after we look at the rest of this. Here is the weapon accessory, Shatter's gun, which is nicely painted, and we'll see much more of this when we get to the robot mode, but there's a little hinge on it to help with getting it put on. And this little piece here comes separate in the box, and it just tabs on like that. And I think I need to turn down the ISO a little bit here because it's looking really intense. There we go. There's the gun. And then you also get 4 missiles. 2 missiles like this, and 2 missiles like this. This one, unfortunately, has a little bit of red paint slop on one fin. I don't care. Then these are the 2 types of missiles next to each other. And you can put the missiles on the gun. There are some slots in a few different places. You can just tap them in there. And then after tapping these in, there's also a slot back here, so you can tap that in. And then the last missile, however you decide to arrange these, because you don't have to do it this way, but however you arrange these, the last missile can plug in to the end there. And there you've got the missiled up weapon. Now, I checked, this port is not blast effect compatible, unfortunately. It's just the port is not big enough for it, so that's a shame. But then you can take this on there, and there's the car with all the gun with all the missiles, and yeah. Then we have the base, which is this kind of textured, almost like a road looking thing with the stripes down the middle. They're not painted or anything, but on the underside there is the stand arm, and this actually there are these spots here, specifically these 2 spots here where these little bits on the sides of the stand kind of click or clip in, or they don't clip, they friction in really snugly. So if you get those lined up and pushed in, that will store the arm inside the base, and you don't have to worry about it coming out. But there's that. And then to use this, you just arrange the little bits there, get them lined up, and pushed into the base. And now there is a stand which can be adjusted. You can there's my spudger. There are these little arms that you can pop out, and with that popped out, you can then adjust this to adjust the angle, and then push it back in to lock that in place. And then you can do the same thing for the upper part. As you can see, if you push, if you push, it'll go in on its own, which seems like a problem because this is like, weight's coming at it from this angle, not this angle, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but it hasn't been a problem in my experience yet. And then if you unlock this, you can extend the arm and have that going different lengths. And again, if you push it in, it just kind of goes on its own. It's weird that it doesn't go the other way, but the way that gravity will affect it, it'll collapse in on its own. That seems like a bad, not the best way to do it. But anyway, you can also adjust this. And that's the stand, and we will again be taking a look at this later. But for now, who cares? And now the car. The car does roll a bit. It's a little bit rough in its rolling, which I think is okay, considering how this whole thing works, considering, movie masterpiece-ish, I guess, style, Bumblebee Movie Fracture. Like, I can understand compromises needing to be made. I feel like being a little bit scrapey along the bottom is understandable. But the car definitely has compromises. There's a lot of panels up here. The front is a little bit like, there's a lot of junk kind of hanging underneath. It's, as I said, definitely compromised. Though I do think it's kind of cool how they did the back. Like, these lights, these tail lights are, they're tail lights for the car, but those are actually part of the robot mode feet, which is, I don't know, I just think that's really clever use of that. And like these two, the little bar back here, I think the feet come together really interestingly. But yeah, it's a bit messy, but it is what it is. I know it's not perfect in terms of like accuracy to the original vehicle used in the movie, which again, like considering how this is supposed to transform into a robot, I think that is understandable. On top of which, like, it may not be perfect, but you know what this is. Like, I don't think anyone who's seen the Bumblebee movie is going to look at this car and not get that it's, supposed to be Shatter's vehicle mode. It's obvious. You got the red, you got the black, you got all the necessary details. At least I think necessary. It's nice and glossy. Jeez, I thought my cough was done. It looks really good for what it is. Also, the engine block is die-cast, so that's cool. This bit here is kind of flexy, which is probably for the best, though the little cage, like roll bars over the windshield, feel like they're die-cast. Also, when you get this figure, if you get this figure, the side mirrors come packaged separately. These are on a little sprue, just twist them off, no big deal. And then you get these little silver stickers you put on to give the, little reflective surface. And then you just slide them down into the windows here. There's like a little peg hole here that they slot into. And that gives you the side mirrors. So yeah, as I said, kind of panelly, a little compromised, but again, given what this thing does, I think that is completely understandable. I am not bothered in the slightest by this car mode being just a little bit compromised. What might be a surprise for anyone who is not terribly familiar with this figure is that she's really big. Like, if we bring in our size comparisons, and I've done away with Artfire, I know, end of an era, so I'm bringing in a different Voyager for scale. But there we have Red Fantasy with the standard size comparisons, and like, look at how huge her car is compared to Burnout. Like, that is ridiculous. This car mode is comparably gigantic. Like, if we get just the two of them together to show that off, like, that's an enormous car mode. I put Burnout on top. It's like, it's ridiculous. Not a complaint. Again, I actually think it's really cool. It's just she big. she very big. But then, of course, we got to do our most important size comparison of all. Here she is with the duck tank. Now, before we start transforming things, if you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done on the channel and you want to do any kind of supportive thing, I do have a Patreon or a Ko-fi. Links to both are in the video description. There's also a link to Patreon at the end of the video. Otherwise, you could always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. You know, the usual. Now for transformation, and this is, like I said, this is not bad. It's actually really intuitive and clever. It's just there's a lot, and I'm not looking forward to doing it at arm's length in front of a camera. And I get to do it twice because, surprise, she's a triple changer. Yeah, they actually, the ridiculous folks at Metagate managed to make a triple changing shatter. That is, oh boy. Okay, so to start, I'm going to untab the wheel. There's just a little, there's a tab right here that tabs in to the wheel there. So untab the wheel and bring it back. Take this panel here and fold that up like that. And then this whole thing can just kind of come out and sit like this for now. Gonna do the same thing on this side. Untab the wheel, fold down the panel, bring this out, and there we go. Also, while I'm thinking about it, gonna take this piece and flip this up and into place. Going to split back here just a little bit, and also want to do this too. You want to fold in the side mirrors and get these actually. Get the windows up first, then fold in the side mirrors, because you can use the side mirrors as a leverage point. So take those. Now we can pull this section out, and you also want to untab it from here and flip that up. So pull that out, untab this, and now this will swing out like this. And there we've got that. Now we want to take this flap here and pull this up, take this assembly here and pull this up. It basically unpegs from around here and hinges up here. So unpeg that, swing that up so that we can get the wheel out of the way. And with the wheel out of the way, we can untab this section from here and pull this out. This can come back down. And then there's a telescoping joint right up in here that slides out. And that will get this up and out of the way. And with this up and out of the way, want to unpeg this. Doesn't really peg in super hard, but there's like a little divot where this little peg sits in. That unpegged, I want to get this piece swung up because there's this little tab here and I just don't want it to like get caught on anything and break. But I want to push this back in. You can see there's like a little tab here that does tab in here, but it's difficult to do. You got to do it blind, and this whole assembly is like painted pretty sturdily, so it's like you just got to kind of be careful. But have this like that, and that can just kind of go off to the side. And then same deal here. You want to untab this whole thing, untab this, bring this out. And before we take care of this whole side, I want to pull this up so that we can open this, fold that in, and then untab this. And again, kind of wiggle this out and slide it up on that hinge there. And then this can come back in and kind of pseudo peg back into place. Again, it's tricky to get lined up, and I don't want to force it because it's like all painted and stuff. So I'm just trying to be careful. This is the thing I'm talking, like, this is what I was afraid of with this figure. It's just so, it's big and there's a lot to the transformation, so I want to be careful with it. But there, we've got that all kind of off and exploded. So here we've got all this. Now I'm going to take these little bars here, flip those all the way down, take the robot mode feet that the taillights are on, flip those all the way up and around. I'm going to keep the toes like that. And now we can pull this armature up and swing it out. Same deal here. You kind of want to angle this a little bit. So you can pull this up and swing it out. And that allows this to open up. And doing this, I'm realizing I needed to take care of these arms. So we're going to do that. The palms actually tab in here, so I'm going to untab those. Just kind of get them out of the way a little bit, get this out of the way a little bit. And also, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to untab these sections and rotate them around 180 degrees. And same deal here, untab, rotate 180. And we'll leave that like that for now. Just kind of rotate these arms out of the way a little bit. So that way we can separate this section, bring it out. Now, want to take this wheel, pull that all the way down. Going to take this joint here. You want to bring this whole thing down on that joint. And you kind of want to be careful to make sure that all of this stuff can clear all of this other stuff. But bring that down. This panel comes up. And now the obvious legs rotate. I'm going to get these bits out of the way too. The obvious legs rotate and getting stuck because of that panel there. So those rotate and then they come back in like so. And bring this down just to make sure it doesn't clash in anything. Rotate this down and bring this back in. There we go. And then these sections here tab together, and this all swings back in, and then these swing back around. And there's like a little divot here that this little post will sit in. It doesn't really like solidly peg, it just kind of rests, but it does what it needs to. And then the feet just come back down. So bring that in, settle those feet down, and there we go. Now, let's see. I'm going to deal with these wheels. There's a little red piece here. You want to catch this end of it, because there's like a little divot you can get your fingernail into, and just pull that out a little bit so that you can swing this around and push that little piece back in. And we'll deal with these later, but I want to get it done now. So again, rotate that around, pull that out just a little bit so you can swing this out, push that back in, and just leave it like that. Okay. Now, this will just kind of bring this back this whole thing back a little bit. Again, just for now, to kind of get it somewhat out of the way. And now comes the tricky part. This is tricky specifically because I've had a tough time doing this part of the transformation without popping the robot head, which is sitting here at a 90-degree angle, without popping it off the ball joint. What I find works best is these... How do I show this? These panels here on either side of the engine block move this way. So like if we're looking at it from this angle, they come down a little bit. So what I find works best to keep from popping that head off the joint is to bring those pieces down now while the head is in place, like without moving the head. So we want to pop this down like that. Just gonna get that arm out of the way there. That can give you a little bit more room to get the chin out of the way so that you can bring this side down like that. And that should keep you from popping the head off. Now you can rotate the head because it'll fit over this section better if it's, I think you actually want to rotate it this way. It'll fit over this section better if it's straight on. And this whole assembly now comes down. And there you can see the head has cleared. It has not popped off. It's a little fiddly, but it's okay. It again, for what all this thing does, I think it's fine. It's just you got to do certain things in a very specific order, though I appreciate that there is some leeway with this figure. You don't have to do everything in exactly the same order. Now, there are some... What are we doing here? Why are we adjusting the... What is happening? Should be on zoom. Why did we change? Okay. The ISO changed. What is going on here? I think I messed up my camera. Anyway, there are these little slots at the front of this section here and here. And there are these little tabs right here at the front of the light bar. You want to bring this assembly down and get those tabs into those slots. There we go. And now this can come down. Okay. I believe the appropriate orientation for the robot mode head is this way with the face pointed backwards, I believe. It is very difficult to know for sure. Also, I'm trying to be careful of this little antenna thing. I really don't know where that goes. But something I'm going to do now is fold the front of the head forward and fish out the landing gear, which this is annoying. Oh, there goes the head popping off the ball joint. Okay. So we'll do the landing gear first. This is irritating because I just have not found a good way to get that landing gear out, so I end up having to use a screwdriver because even the spudger's not enough for this. But get that landing gear out and then close this back up. Okay. Now I'm gonna try to orient this back. Hopefully this fits through. Kind of feed that through there. I think that'll be okay. All right. Yikes. It's not bad. It's just, there's a lot. Okay. Now the arms do some really interesting stuff. I want to swing these forward. And there's actually, this black section here is a separate section that untabs from here. So that untabs and can swing around. And you don't want to swing it around all the way. What you want to do is get it partially swung around, and then you want to deal with the shoulder pads. So you can rotate the shoulder pad And then there's this little tab here that goes in there, and that will kind of solidify the shoulder placement, which is important. And same deal on this side. Want to just kind of get this out of the way a little bit. Pop this section out, rotate it down, and then spin this around. There we go. You want the armature here, and then you want to rotate it there. There's a lot of little joints on these shoulder pads, and then tab it in like that. And then swing that in. Okay, I'm going to do this upside down because I really don't want to risk damaging the that little head antenna thing. So we got to do with the hands is it's simple but very specific. So these little gray panels here open up and swing all the way out. And now what you want to do is there's one hand, the hand orientation is slightly, or the wrist structure is slightly different based on the hand. The one with the ball joints, this ball joint here, why aren't you focusing? This ball joint, you want to rotate the hand around and swing it in like this, and just bring down the thumb. You want the hand kind of oriented like that. And then the other side, you can open up the panel all the way and just leave it like that. And now these swing in, and also rotate. You want to get this little tab section underneath the shoulder pad. It doesn't actually tab in, it's just something I use to orient myself. So these continue to push in, rotate the forearms a bit more, and then there is actually a tab. You can just see it right there that will allow you to tab the arms together. So get that oriented, peg them together, peg them together, come on. Peg them together, there we go. So now that they're pegged together, this whole assembly is all together. You want to take this hand and rotate the thumb in, curl in the fingers. So you basically want her making a fist, like that. But what you then do is, I'll keep this pushed together, you want to rotate the wrist this way, and then there's a secondary hinge in here. It's like you can kind of see the ball joint's not open like it was on the other one. Why aren't you focusing? Focus. So there's another ball joint there. That will allow you to hinge the hand so that it's more towards the center. It was like this. You want to hinge it like that. That will keep it out of the way for, oh, why? Why are we doing this? Zoom. I want zoom, not focus. There we go. So that will keep it centered for what we got to do next. Because what we got to do next is take the cockpit assembly, pull that up, and now there is the nose cone section here that kind of pulls out, rotates around, and lines up like that. And this second piece also pulls out and also rotates around. And now this comes down, and this assembly, this hinge kind of goes in here. Then there are tabs here that tab in on the sides of the forearms, and then there's these little tabs on the inside of the nose cone that tab into the front sections of where the forearms come together. So you just bring this down, get this in, get this. I find it's easiest to kind of get the nose cone up and over the little handcuffs first, and then tab the forearms into place. And that gets the main section of the plane together, and then you can just bring the other bit of the nose cone in, and that will cover up the fist. And that is the... why are you... Okay, this was a bad idea. Threading the antenna through there was a really bad idea. So let's do this, and raise that up a little bit, and then bring it down like that. That's probably safer. Boy, this thing is going through it. It's been flexed a lot. It's just really hard to know how to orient this thing. But anyway, there is all of that. Now, to finish up the front of the jet, I want to take these pieces and swing them down, and they kind of tuck right into here. And it can be a little tricky getting them past these bits here, but those just swing in like that. And these pieces, for now, we'll just leave them out. Like once these get past, then they're fine. But yeah, swing that down and in. There we go. Now for the last bits of the jet mode, I want to swing the wings out of the way. Keep them out of the way. I want to do this. That'll get them out of the way. Okay. I want to take these pieces, rotate them up here. There's a joint right here. You can see how that spins. So rotate that up. And you want to kind of keep the window under this armature. So rotate that, and then get this kind of lined up like this. Fold this down. Take this piece and fold it up. Fold this back, and then rotate this piece around. You can kind of guess where this is going. And then just kind of give this a little nudge to make sure it's in the right place. And now this wheel, you kind of swing out, and you want to make sure it's swung out so that there's a little tab here that pegs into the center of the wheel. So you can get that kind of lined up. And I'm just doing it now so that this doesn't flop around. We're going to need to adjust that a little bit in a minute. But it'll keep the wheel and the back panel from flopping around too much. Now, again, here, you want to rotate this, but keep that window down. Get that all lined up. There we go. Fold this out. Fold this back, and then take this piece and fold that up, like so. Okay, now, I'm going to unpeg this real quick, and there are these two tabs in the center here, one on each half of the thing. These will sandwich together. They were just alarmingly tight when I first got this figure. I ended up having to shave them down a little bit. I just took an X-Acto knife and just cut a tiny bit off on one side of each tab. And that got them to, as you can see, they sit together just fine. And with that set together, we can sandwich the tail fin together and bring this piece back so that it all lines up. And then this comes back down, and now both of those panels have tabs that'll tab into those sections on the wheels. And then you can just kind of rotate these in to kind of get them out of the way. And then the windows come up. And with the windows up, you can take these panels here and fold those in. Again, fold that in, take this and rotate it back. These don't tab in, they just kind of sit, but they sit just fine. And now, finally, we can finish off with the wings. So, to do the wings, they're pretty much in the right orientation already. Just want to fold this piece up because there's a little track here. You want to use that track to swing the wing out. And then with the wing swung out, now what we can do is spin this on this ball joint, straighten this piece out, and then this swings in, and this will tab in. This tab here, right here, will tab in right there. And that will plug in, and that will work as like the strut for the sort of support landing gear. And then this can rotate out as you do. And that is one wing. And then to get the wing in place, there's a tab right here. There are actually two tabs, here and here, and peg section on the underside of the wing here. And you just push the telescope piece in all the way, and then swing this in, and you just kind of have to feel it, but it will locate itself really easily. I've never had a problem getting these lined up. Now, initially I saw that like some people on TFW had to shave, or maybe it was that toy guy, but people had to shave down those pegs because those were too tight. On this version that I have, they've been fine. It's just these two up here that were the problem for me. But anyway, there is one wing done, and now wing number 2 is the same exact deal. Just going to swing this up. Actually, I'll show you from this side. So it's like this. You want to swing it out. Then you can straighten that out. And with that straightened out, this can swing around. Let's do this. Swing around on that ball joint. Tab in up here. And then this can orient itself so that it's more flush with the ground. And then again, this telescopes in and comes in and then locates on that other tab. And again, like, it's weird and almost disconcerting how easily it tends to find that tab, and I never really have any problems. But yeah, that was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, but it's really not bad when you're not doing it in front of a camera. And with all of that said and done, here we have Red Fantasy's, a.k.a. Shatter's jet mode, and it's actually, like, this is a really convincing jet mode considering the fact that it used to be a car not that long ago. Like, yes, absolutely. I said as much with the car, and I'm saying the same with the jet. Compromises have been made, no question. There is no doubt that there have been compromises here. But, like, for what this is, it's shockingly well done. It has the right silhouette. The everything comes together pretty nicely. It's definitely patchy in places, but like, this jet mode silhouette wise is cleaner than a lot of other jets. Like, Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream, as much of an all-timer as that figure is, that jet's underside, silhouette-wise, is messier than this. This, like, yeah, you've got a lot of obvious robot junk down here, and, like, the head's just right here. But the thing is, it's, like, it doesn't affect the... It doesn't actually affect the proportions of, like, the jet silhouette. Like, this, if you're just looking at the silhouette, this does not look all that compromised underneath, which is really cool. I also really love how the nose comes together. I love what they did with the arms and this, little hidden cockpit section. And then I love how the wheels turn into, like, little secondary intakes or primary intakes, whatever these are. Just, it makes a fun little jet detail. I don't know how accurate this jet mode is to the movie, but I don't care. It just looks cool, and I think it's really, really awesome. just how well this comes across. And here you can see the gray I was talking about. All this gray in the first version of the figure was white. But now it is gray, and I think it looks fine. Like, this is, again, not accurate to the movie, but it looks great, and it's really, really cool that this used to be a car. And I feel like if you're looking at this without knowing what you're looking for, you may not even notice the car stuff. I mean, yeah, you got wheels here, but like, I feel like it wouldn't be that difficult to be like, oh, this turns into a robot, and not really think about the fact that, oh no, it turns into a car too. As you can see, it's a little bit ropey in a few places, and just like staying like, it's easy to jostle some things out of place if you're not careful with it, but like, this is still really impressive. And you can fold up the landing gear, like the landing gear can fold up into the robot mode head, which I'm not going to do right now. This stuff can rotate, or you can just flip it up like that if you want. So you can get the support wheels out of the way however you want. And this is something that I saw someone point out on TFW, which I wanted to echo. The landing gear here, if you get it in this position, you're good for vehicle mode, for jet mode. You can leave it tucked away like it was before, then you do have to like disassemble this whole thing to put it away. But if you want to put it away in jet mode and you already have it out like this, you don't have to disassemble the legs. You can just pop these out, and this tucks in there, and those close up again. And that's like, for some reason, that impresses me even more than like the rest of what this figure does. Just the fact that on top of everything else, they managed to engineer a secondary way for you to tuck away the landing gear specifically for jet mode. That is just ridiculous. Okay, now, the jet mode is a little bit bigger than the car mode because, you know, she does stretch out. And I just realized I turned Burnout into a robot because I wasn't thinking about how we were doing vehicle mode comparisons. So give me a second here. All right, there we go. There is Burnout. And yeah, like, the mass hasn't, like, there's definitely the mass shifting illusion here with the Red Fantasy's jet mode, but like, the mass of the vehicle definitely redistributes itself successfully, I'd say, because like, this is, it's like longer and about the same width, and then you've got the wings coming out there. I don't know, it just it's really cool how this whole thing gets reshaped. And I'm desperately hoping that the aspect ratio for this video was not weird while I've been recording for like the last half of it. I think all I did was affect the display on my camera, but we'll see in the edit. Anyway, final size comparison, most important size comparison for the jet mode. Here she is with the duck tank. I feel like I've really put Burnout through her paces in this video. Okay, now it's time for robot mode, and we are a decent chunk of the way there already. So, first thing, oh boy, where to start? Okay, gonna start with the wings again. Gonna pop these off. And just gently wiggle them out. Stretch out the, pull out the little piston thing. And now, for getting the wings ready for robot mode, you basically go back to car mode, where you want to untab this, swing it up like this, and then before settling anything, you want to fold this in a little bit so that we can bring this back down once again on that track. Now we can bring this back down into place, and actually, this part now comes out. You want to keep this flipped up. This swings around, and there's a tab here. Tab here that plugs in right there, and that will lock this together for the robot mode wing. So just swing that up, and you're going to want to tab it in. But before you do that, you want to get this piece in place. There's a little slot right there that piece can tab into, and then this piece folds up and goes over the end there. Now that this is all squared away, this can come in and tab into place. And when you're untabbing this section, you want to very carefully but deliberately give it some wiggling. You don't want to pull too hard because it goes in really solidly. So just be careful when you're untabbing that, but it will untab. And now that is one robot mode wing ready to go. Other wing, same exact deal. Just wiggle that out. Extend this. And try and show it from this side. So I want to untab this piece, bring this up, swing this in. And now this will, try to find a good angle. This will disconnect. There we go. And now from, oh boy, okay, from this side, I'll swing this up a little bit. From this side, you can see there's the little tab slot. So this lines up with that and tabs in. Then this piece swings up and goes over there. And now this can swing in the rest of the way and tab in there. There we go. Okay, now we can pop this out. And separating this section does require a little bit of doing. Basically, the back part of the tail fin, this part of the tail fin is on this side, and the front part of the tail fin is on this side. You can tell because there's like a little peg here, and there's another peg right below that on the back side. So basically, you just want to grab the back side and pull from down here. I'm just going to grab a sputcher. Just get that little pop. There we go. And these will, if they're not super solid, they should come apart on their own. But yeah, those come apart. And we'll just flip those up and out of the way for now. Now we can work on the legs. So going to keep these as they are right now. Keep the feet as they are, but swing this up so that we can swing this out. And then swing these down, like so. Now, these pieces will swing up like this, and this red piece, you actually want to swing that all the way out now. Or maybe partially out, because you need to have space to swing this in. You kind of have to angle this specifically, because if you try to come in this way, it's going to clash here, so you want to angle it more like this, so you can swing it in first. But there is enough room to rotate it. So you rotate that up, bring this fin down, bring this down, and just leave it like that for now. Same deal here. Swing this up, and then you can kind of see how this swings into that little cavity and can swing up like that. Now, this piece will swing down, and there is a tab here that'll sit right in this notch here. And it's not like a like it doesn't super solidly plug in, but it will go in there. And same thing on this side. Bring this in and just give that a squeeze, but it'll not really stay in place. And then now we can rotate these up. These pieces rotate up, and there is a this section here will basically peg over this piece here, and you want to push it in pretty hard so that it'll click. Like click, click. You don't want this to just like pull out. You don't want to be able to pull this out. If it pulls out, it's not in hard enough. But push that in. And as you push that in, you'll see this piece pop out. And again, you just want to push that in as hard as you can to make sure that tire is in there and not coming out, because if that piece gets pushed out, that is going to really affect the stability of the robot mode. So then with that done, the feet can kind of hinge back, and this little section here will go over this open section of the wheel, like that. And that helps to kind of keep the foot relatively stable. You can straighten up the toes, hold out the heels, and I think I got to split the legs to finish this up. Okay, so again, bring this in and bring this up and over, fold out the up and over, fold out the toes, fold out the heels, and there we go. Now, I'm gonna just get these out of the way. I'm going to fold the wings back, fold these sections up again, fold these sections down a little bit, and I'm just getting stuff out of the way so it's not going to clash into other stuff. Now we can separate the legs again, like so. Landing gear can swing all the way back in, and now these pieces fold up and slide. There's a little slider here, so you want to slide that up as high as it'll go. This comes back in, and there's a little tab here on this little metal piece. Like, you can just barely see it right there. That tabs in there. So I'm going to bring this in, and it's you just kind of feel it. It tabs in, but that doesn't tab in super securely. It just kind of sits in there. There's actually a place where this tab goes on the underside of this panel. So with that in place, that'll tab in, and that keeps the leg all like together. And there is one leg. And the other leg, same deal. Hold it out and slide it up. Bring it in, peg that in, and this should come down and just peg in, no problem there. And that is legs for Red Fantasy. Now for the upper body. And the upper body is, see, I was right, it's almost an hour long already, 45 minutes of transformation. So the upper body is also involved. I want to get these wheels out of here again. And those can just kind of fold back and out of the way for now. Get those back and up and out of the way. Should take care of the nose cone section. So I want to open this up, get this up and past the little bits on the arms there, and they'll untab from there. Then pop that section out. Then rotate this and fold it back in. Bring this down, rotate it, fold it back in. And then this whole thing comes back and just accordions back and kind of sits like that. That takes care of that part. Now, I'm going to straighten this out to get it clearance. Split the arms and rotate these sections out. This can, if this little strut gets out of the way, this can come down a little bit so you can see what's happening here. This piece now unplugs from here, because that was just for the jet mode. So that unplugs. I'm going to bring the head back a little bit. You want to keep these arms back, keep these forward, and you want to rotate just this front piece 180 degrees, like so. And now these bits angled down. Okay. Now this piece can fold in, and this can come up. I'm going to feed the head through there. And this is one of the tricky parts. There are these tabs here and here that actually tab into some very difficult to see slots just in here. And to get those to tab in, you basically have to pull up to kind of flex things a little bit. And it's not great, but it seems to be holding together all right. So I'm just gonna see if I can show any of this. Just kind of pull this up a little bit, swing that into place, and try and get it lined up. This is, I don't like how this is giving me so much trouble. This normally doesn't give me any trouble, but I'm also not normally doing this in front of a camera. There we go. Okay. Hopefully that was visible to you all. In this piece, same deal. I'm going to bring it up and locate it. There we go. Now this can all swing back down, and this piece comes up. These tabs on either side of this torso piece will go into these little slots under here, and then these tabs here will go into these peg holes here. And that's another thing that's a little tricky to get lined up, but once you get it, you get it. It's not that difficult. You just kind of have to know what you're, know that that's where it's supposed to go. And again, it's something that you're kind of doing by feel. So there's one side, and there's the other side. Okay. Her torso is all clipped together now. While we're here, let's take care of the landing gear. So I'm just gonna open this up, pop that back in, close that back up. The head can sit back down, and we'll just keep the side antenna thing rotated like that. These pieces rotate back over and peg in, but before you do that, you want to untab the shoulder armor. So untab that. Then you can fold this up and probably rotate the arm out of the way too. So bring this up, and that'll tab in. This piece rotates 180 degrees again, and now this piece comes down on a hinge, and this tucks in, and there is a little tab right here that will tab on the underside of this little flap that comes down. So get all that in place, push that in. I want to make sure it's lined up properly, and this just comes in and tabs over that and fills in the midsection a little bit. And same deal here. Going to untab the shoulder piece, shoulder armor, bring this up and bring that in place. Swing this down, swing this in. And yeah, that's a thing that's going to happen. I'll talk about that more in a bit. Bring this in, tab that in. And there is the torso. Now for the last little bits of it. The leg's still, yeah, okay. Just making sure the leg's still okay. So this foot looks a little bit off. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. I think the feet are fine now. So for the arms, I want to bring this down. This piece will rotate around and kind of, there we go, kind of settles into place as the shoulder pad. The arm extends, it's on a slider, rotates out. For this hand, you just bring the hand out as you do, and then this panel comes in and tabs in, and there you've got arm number one all set. Piece of cake, comparatively anyway. And then for the other arm, very similar. You slide out the forearm, close up this panel, rotate that around, get the fist rotated properly, and Get these little fingers all situated. That one is giving me grief. Come on. There we go. And that comes down. And this. So this shoulder assembly, there's a hinge here. It's on a ball joint, and then the connector that the ball joint goes into is also on a swivel. But because of the shape of it, it can't swivel 360 degrees. So you want to basically get it in place and swivel it in. And it's a little awkward at first, but once you kind of figure out how the joint works, it's not too bad. Okay, now for the last bits of the figure. It's actually home stretch, pretty simple. Want to bring this down for one. So these wheel sections here, they just swing out like this. The wings come up, and this, let's back up a little bit. This metal tab right here will plug in to, I forget which one it is, but one of the slots on the back of the wheel section here. So you want to rotate this up so that it's lined up. And this will just kind of plug in to the back there. And that gives you Shatter's wing and intake assembly for robot mode, which is really cool. I really like that. And same deal here. Just bring this down, bring this out, and tab that in. Can be a little tricky to figure out the angles, but once you get it, it's not a problem. And there we go, there are Shatter's wings. And now for the backpack, I'm just going to do it the way that the instructions show to do it. So you want to bring this piece up, and now there's this tab here that'll tab in to the back here, like so. This, you just kind of want to angle out a bit. I'll actually bring this up because this window has to fold in like that. Now this can come down and angle out a little bit. Bring this down. So situate this about like this. Bring this piece up, fold this in, bring this up, and just fold it in like that. Or if you wanted to, I guess you could also have it like that. It's, you got options, but I'm going to do it like that. Now, this piece got so many swivels and parts, but basically this piece will fold in and tab in on the underside here. And then this can angle down to make like a little pseudo plane tail. And then it's the same deal on this side. You just bring this up and tab it into the back. Swing that window in. Bring this down. Close this up. Swing it up. Swing it in. Swing this around, and this will tab in on the underside here. And that is it. This is, let's see how this is, okay, for some reason this side doesn't seem to be sitting quite the same. There we go. There are just so many joints. So many joints and other things to think about on this figure. But there we go, backpack. And there, at long last, we have Red Fantasy or Shatter in her robot mode. And this looks utterly spectacular. Like, I don't think there's any denying how good this robot mode looks. And now, again, like, that transformations, absolutely involved. I am not questioning, like, I'm not trying to say it's not. But, as involved as those transformations are, they're actually fine. Like, yeah, they are definitely tricky to do on camera at arm's length. And even not in front of a camera, it does still take me a little bit of time going between them. But like, all things considered, like it's nowhere near as bad as I was expecting, and it's really not bad at all. Like, I did it like, I think I did it once to familiarize myself with it. I did it a second time to kind of come up with my own methodology and shortcuts. And then a third time was just like, oh yeah, that actually went pretty smoothly. And then this is like basically the fourth time I've transformed this thing into all three modes. But like, I don't know, it works, it flows, there's a logic to it. And I really like how all of it comes together. You're left with this really nice looking Bumblebee Movie Shatter that has 3 modes. And yes, they do have compromises, but like, how could they not? You know, the only other option would be like, what, is Alien Attack going to do this? Where it ends up being as miserable, if not more miserable, to transform than any of their other figures. Like, no thank you. This is a little bit like, I'd put this more on par with like maybe slightly more complicated than Unique Toys, where their movie transformations, their live action movie transformations, like they're involved, but there's just like, there's something about them where they're fine. Like, they're not a pain to go through. They're not that difficult to remember. And for everything going on with Shatter here, it's the same thing where it's like, I remember how to do it. And that's really impressive to me. But yeah, she looks fantastic. Again, all these gray bits are white in the original release, but I got the second release that has the gray. And I was actually initially hoping to get the white version because I thought the white looked really good. But like, having this in hand, I really like this. I don't have any interest whatsoever in trying to get the white version now. I am perfectly content with the gray version. And it's just a fantastic figure. Like, the sculpting, the colors, the detailing is just so good all the way around. I love how the wheels split to both fill in the backs of the calves and like give her these little winglets back there. It's just a neat little detail. The wings in robot mode, they are messy. Not going to deny that. It really sucks that you've got these visible screws and pins everywhere. But again, given how much this figure has to do, it's a compromise that I think makes sense. And if I really hated it, I could try and like paint over the screws or something. I don't care enough to do it, especially because like, you're primarily going to be looking at her like this, and you don't really see the screws like that, so it's fine. But yeah, the compromises are there. But consider this. As compromised as the outside of the wings may be, the assembly offers movement. And like, this little piston here actually contracts and moves in and out as you move the wings up and down. That is so cool. You could adjust the wings. And I mean, granted, they can only go out that far unless you like disconnect stuff, and then it's not going to be solid. But that's really cool. They did the wings and they're adjustable. That's super, super cool. The only thing that really bugs me about the look of this robot mode really is the stomach area here. It just, there's a lot of nice detailing there, and it is painted, as you can see. Like, it is painted. Let's dull that light a little bit more. It is painted. It looks good. Let's adjust the ISO a little bit more. There we go. Like, that looks good. It's nice and detailed. It, you know, adds some really nice texture. The problem that I have with it is it looks just kind of really flat. I wish there was a little bit more dimension to this. I understand why there's not. I don't see how they realistically could have made this more three-dimensional, because like, this is the underside of the back window of the car. Because the car has basically turned completely inside out at this point. You can just kind of barely see the front windshield tucked up in there. Like there you can see the front windshield with the roll bar. And like, this panel here, this is the back window. So yeah, I don't know how they could have conceivably really added more dimension to this section, but it does bug me a little bit how it seems a little flat compared to everything else going on here. But man, this robot looks fantastic. The color separation is great. I really like the gray. The gray and the red looks good, but then you've got lots of black and silver, a little bit of this like coppery gold, and then actual like copper up in there. I love how so much of this is not fake parts. Like, yes, the legs are basically, well, okay, there's a lot of fake parts here. Don't get me wrong. But like the wings, while they're reshaped, they are actually the jet mode wings. The front section of the car that makes up her chest is the front section of the car. That's really cool. That is really, really cool. I really like this. And once I got this figure, I was kind of like, Metagate's drift looks pretty neat. I've actually been contemplating haiku. The problem with that is I don't collect drifts, and I'm trying to be very like picky with the figures that I get these days for many reasons. So I'm probably going to pass on haiku, though I had been passing already. But like, I don't know, like haiku looks really cool. And once I found out that helicopter mode is actually like, while it's not necessarily movie accurate, it's more correct to what the movie looked like than if they were to try and make it look like a real helicopter. Because like you see that helicopter mode for like 2 seconds in the movie, and it really does look just like a mess of robot mode parts. So I'm actually more impressed with haiku after learning about that. But anyway, we're talking about Red Fantasy here, Shatter, and like, yeah, again, compromises in all 3 modes, but they're not enough for me to be bothered by them in the first place. And like, especially when you factor in that this is a gigantic movie, like live action movie figure that is a triple changer and actually does pull off all 3 modes really well. That's super cool. Anyway, I've been talking way too long. Let's get this show on the road and finish things up. So that head is darn near perfect. The only thing that really I would have liked is if they had given her that like evil Grinch smile that she has at that one point in the movie, but that's whatever. But like the sculpting is great, the coloring is great. I love, like someone on TFW pointed this out, I love that the eyes are actually red with orange dots in the middle. That is a really cool detail. Like both the fact that it's color separated like that, but it also really does make those eyes pop and makes them seem more like, evil and full of life. The helmet is just, it's Shatter's head with the nice red like bike helmet thing with a little fin on the side, the silver trim everywhere, lots of little like gunmetal-y bits here and there, and it just looks so good. Now, the armature here that the head is on, the swinging armature, not like the ball joint, but like this little hinge down here. When I got mine, it was loose. I did tighten it up, and now you can see it's fine. Because before I would like tilt the robot forward, and this would just be like plant. But now it's a lot better. But anyway, as you can see, since we were going over the head is on a ball joint, so you get side to side, you get the rotation, you can look up, you can look down, you can use that hinge to look more down or more up. You can get more clearance to turn more extreme. So yeah, nice posability on the head. The wings, as mentioned, can go up and down. And I don't actually have a problem with these untabbing. Once these are tabbed in, they're in. Like I'm not too worried about these unseating themselves when I'm manipulating the wings, so that's really nice. The arms, they could theoretically do a full 360, but like that's not happening with these wings here. But we get this out of the way. They can go forward about that far, back about that far. The shoulder armor can kind of get out of the way. You've got two different joints, outward joints for the shoulder. You've got a friction joint, and then you've also got a ratcheted outward joint. So you can go up like that. So lots of jointage there. There is a bicep swivel. There's a single jointed elbow that bends way more than you'd probably ever need, but it does do that, which is really cool considering this is on a slider. And I like that the slider is not like, you could see, like I'm pushing and it's not going back in. You got to use some force to get that slider going. That's good. The wrists are on swivels, well, because the ball sockets. There's also a hinge at the bottom so you can hinge them down, though she doesn't come with swords, so it's whatever. The fingers are the thumb and the index finger are individually articulated, and then the three other fingers are like one piece. So the thumb, you've got a ball joint, and then a hinge there, and a hinge at the tip. The index finger has a hinge here and here, so you can curl in. So you can curl in like that. And then the three fingers also can hinge in and hinge in. So that's how you that's how the hands work. And this hand has the same downward hinge too. It doesn't matter which hand, they both have it. So there's that. You do get a waist rotation. You kind of want to push these little piston things up and out of the way, but that will get you waist rotation. You get an ab crunch, which is detented. Mine is really loose. It was really loose out of the box, like floppy loose. And I had to get a screwdriver in there and tighten that up, but like the angle's really weird, so I haven't been able to tighten it as much as I want. And if I really wanted to get in there and tighten that screw, I'd have to like take the leg, like I'd have to take the pelvis apart basically. And I don't want to do that right now, so instead we're just leaving it like that. But like you can see, it detents down, and it does hold, but like it doesn't hold super duper well. But still, she's got ab crunch. The hips can do quite a bit, actually. They can go forward a lot. They can go back also a lot. This kind of gets in the way, but it can get out of the way, so you can go back like that. And now you get outward motion. That's only goes to about here, but that's not terrible. And you can also go in. That's actually handy. You've got thigh rotation. This leg, this piece likes to come undone and can make this wiggly. But as long as I'm holding here, I don't have to worry about anything. And this is not an unnatural place to hold the leg while moving it anyway, so it's not a huge deal. But then for the knees, you get a little bit more forward movement, and then really nice bend, like well past 90 there. So the knees are nice and flexy. And lastly, the feet, they can tilt quite a bit. The tilt's a little bit loose, but it's just the tilt. The forward and backward motion, you can use it, but this is a little bit too loose to support the weight of the figure. So I would recommend not bothering, and instead just keep this hooked behind on the other side of that wheel to kind of help to lock everything together. It just keeps things more stable. So yeah, she is really nicely posable. And I just realized I never showed off the stand with the jet mode, and I'm not doing that again. I'm not going back to jet mode in this video, mostly because I just don't want to subject you all to it, and this video is well over an hour already, so forget that. But you can put the jet on the flight stand, so there's that. But I can bring the stand back for the robot mode, but before we do that, we got the gun, and to give her the gun, there's pegs on the arm, and what you want to do is you want to take the hand and basically make a fist. So like, do that, ball up fingers, and then you want to rotate the wrist 180 degrees. And now the this comes in. I'm just going to take that I'm going to take the missiles off just to get this on, but hinge this up, and now this will plug into, there's a little tab here, so that plugs into the forearm, and then you want to kind of get that fist situated so that it's here, I think I want to get that thumb folded up more like that, maybe. This is a little tricky, but I try doing it like that. Bring this in, because you can kind of see where all of that sits. So now the thumb is in that little groove there. And now this comes around and kind of, this should go over the knuckles on the hand. It doesn't seem to want to. I don't know what I'm doing differently this time around, but get that over the, okay. Swing this in, that should just, there we go. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but with that done, there is Shatter with her gun. That looks cool. And again, you can just arm this up with the various missiles if you want to do that. I don't particularly like the look of it with all the missiles on, and honestly, I don't really care for the gun not really having a cool place to store in either mode, so I'm just gonna leave this all in the box when I'm done with this video. But there is Shatter with her missiled up blaster. And yeah, this is and I've said this a bunch of times already, but this is a super cool figure. Yeah. Given what everything does, like the transformation is perfectly manageable. So, last thing to do is the stand. So, we'll just stretch that up. And now there is a little port on the back, little plug on the base, and that just plugs in. There we go, and that will keep her up and off the ground in an alarming fashion. We'll just bring this stuff down a little bit. But yeah, there she is on the stand. And again, like the gravity is not, the stand is not designed well for gravity. It does not take much for this to push in, and then it can start leaning forward. But it's fine for what it is. Again, I'm not going to be using it, but it's fine. Now, release the robot. There we go. So yeah. Again, just a super cool figure. And as already mentioned, quite large. Like, I knew this figure was going to be big going into it. I was not surprised that the figure was big. I was surprised by how big. As we bring in our Voyager, like, she's enormous. Let's bring in burnout there. So yeah, she's huge. I don't have any DLX scale figures that I can compare her with, so I'm sorry about that. I don't have the DLX or MDLX, whatever it is, the Bumblebee Movie, the 3-0 Bumblebee Movie Prime. I don't have that figure. I don't have. I used to have Cyber Era, their Bumblebee. I wish I still did at this point, but sold that off a little while ago, regretting it, and can't do a comparison with him. But one other figure I can do a comparison with that's not technically a Bumblebee movie figure, but kind of is Megatank. And, like, Megatank is gigantic, but yeah, she's she's no slouch next to Megatank. And again, like, Megatank is huge. It's just really impressive to me how big this Shatter is. Thankfully, she's not so big that I can't get her to stand on my shelf. Thankfully. But yeah, she big. And so cool. And let's bring this back in and down for our final and most important of size comparisons. There we've got Red Fantasy with the Duck Tank. And that does it for Metagate's Red Fantasy, their version of Shatter. And this is such a cool figure. I completely understand why she's, like, a lot of people on TFW have been saying she's their figure of the year from 2023. I could absolutely see that being a... she absolutely would have been a contender if I got her in 2023. She came in for me in 2024, so didn't qualify, but she qualifies for 2024's list, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, she is super cool. Another thing I've noticed is this waist joint is a little bit back and forth wiggly. Like, it's not supposed to tilt, it's just a little wiggly. It's not terrible, it's just a thing I've noticed. But yeah, this figure is utterly incredible. The detailing is great, the engineering is super smart, and I will forever be just astonished at how Metagate was able to not just pull off a triple changing Shatter, but, like, have it done in a way that's not a nightmare to transform. Complex, absolutely. Involved, for sure, but not a nightmare. This isn't a transformation I dread doing. This is something that's really satisfying to pull off, and again, there's a lot of really clever stuff. I didn't mention this earlier, but I also really love how the legs collapse into themselves for both the vehicle modes to just kind of help with that mass, that, like, illusion of mass adjustment, and how like the feet end up at the knees when you go into car or jet mode because of that whole swing gimmick, and, like, the shins are tucked up onto the backs of the calves. She manages her mass incredibly well, and I love this. I absolutely love this, and I'm really curious to see what they do with Dropkick, because I am on board for Dropkick if they do one. It's a little bit, like, not super enthusiastic about having to get, like, the ways that you have to get this stuff in place. It feels a little bit like, flexing plastic in a way that it doesn't feel like it's going to break, but I don't like doing it. But yeah, aside from those minor nitpicks, like, this figure is amazing, and if you're in the market for a big movie masterpiece style Shatter that is a triple changer and all three modes work, yes, they're not perfect, but they work, get this, because she is great, and, like, for the price, I think she's, like, roughly $160, $150, something like that. For the price, this is just amazing. But that is going to do it for Metagate's Red Fantasy. I've talked so freaking long. I am sorry. What do you all think of this figure, or Haiku if you have Haiku? Because again, I think Haiku looks really cool, but I may be in the minority. Well, no, I know I'm not the minority there. But point is, what do you all think? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching. And this is the most complicated figure that I've got on my list out of the way. So from here on out, we're looking at stuff that's going to be a lot less involved.